The Florida Gators might be adding a national champion to their roster in 2025.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Just a reminder, I am here in Mobile, Alabama, which is why it may sound different. It may look different. I know someone made a comment about, the microphone sounds good. Someone made a comment about the microphone looks so damn big as it is. I got one of these Mean Gene Okerlund microphones right now that we're doing, or that we're using on the road here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Gonna have bonus content. Gonna try to speak with all of the Gators here. By the way, we have 4. We have Cam Jackson, Shamar James, Jim Dike, and Jeremy Crawshaw. Going to try to speak with all of them. Usually Rob Sale is here. We'll see if there's any other Florida Gators coaches that join him. I would imagine someone, right? But we'll get to that throughout the week. If you're not part of the Subtext program, the Insider program, and you want those texts and updates, the link's in the description below, or go to join subtext.com/LockedOnGators to sign up. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And the Florida Gators are bringing in Hero Kanu for a visit, or he was starting his visit yesterday. Got to Gainesville on Sunday because I realized that the insiders have asked questions about it, and I've seen people on Twitter go, I thought he got here Sunday. He got to Gainesville on Sunday, but started the visit on Monday. So just to clear up confusion, that's what it is. Ohio State backup defensive tackle, which, I mean, me bringing that up immediately, this is one of those outlier portal players, we'll say. Me bringing up immediately that Hero Kanu is a backup defensive tackle. I know there's going to be people that yell about how you can't bring in backups. How, what's another common one we're going to hear in the comment section? Oh, bringing in a guy that couldn't start on a national championship team does not mean that you're achieving national champion status, right? Because if he was good enough to help them, then he'd be good enough to help us. But if he's not, then he's not. Bad argument, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. But yes, by saying he's a backup automatically kind of disqualifies him from the, is it a good transfer portal addition? Because you know our general rules here. 1, proven contributor at his previous spot. Obviously, Hero Kanu does not have that. He played less than 10 snaps per game. Okay, I want to throw that one out there. For the entire season, he played less than 10 snaps on average per game. That's including the fact that he started a game. I think it was the Marshall game he started. So including the fact that he started, he on average played less than 10 snaps per game. That's not great, right? So yes, he's not a proven productive player at his previous location. So no for the first measure. And the second measure is, has he been in college for less than a year? The answer there is also no. Hero Kanu has been in college for a few years now. He's got a lot of experience in a developmental process that Ohio State has gone through, because when he got to Ohio State, Ryan Day had not won a national championship yet. Now he's won a national champion, and I think a national championship, and I do think that matters as far as the mental fortitude you've got, right? You were there to experience it. Like Hero Kanu can come in and tell everybody, this is what national champions do. And no one on the roster can tell him, no, it's not, because no one on the roster has done it. New addition of the defensive coaching staff has done it, but that's beside the point right now. He hasn't done it in the portal era, in the NIL era. But I would say that Hero Kanu, if he's going to be a Florida Gator, would come in to join a rotation. Okay. Personally, I don't think he's someone from watching his film. I don't think that Hero Kanu is someone that you should watch. And if he were to commit to the Florida Gators, I don't think he's someone that you should look at and say, hey, this guy's coming here to start. Like maybe in his mind, he's coming in here to start. And to be frank, he should, in his mind, be coming in here to start because that's like what a competitor would do, right? I want to come here and take a starting job. But as a fan, I would say he could come in here and start. But if he commits to Florida, I'm not coming in here and saying that's your starting nose tackle. I can't do that. Watching his film, seeing what we saw, I'm going to look at him and say, hey, he's going to come in here and compete for a starting spot. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, that's your starting nose tackle. I can't do it. Like, I need to see more from everybody involved in that battle. But right now, I can't say if he joined, I can't say there would be a favorite. I would say, hey, that's an open battle at the position right now, which is a good thing. I don't want people to go, oh, we don't know who's going to be our starting nose tackle. We're in such a rough spot. Undecided doesn't mean bad. Okay. So I'll say that. And also, I will say this. This is something that has kind of answered and calmed some of the concerns that I may have for adding a player like Hero Kanu, who again, backup, got passed up by a freshman this year with Ohio State. Again, he still rotated in, but very infrequently because of that. And on paper, not a good portal addition. But the flip side, and the thing that calms my suspicions, calms my concerns, calms my doubts, we'll say, is that it's not just Florida interested in Hero Kanu, right? And it's not just Florida and one other school. This isn't him deciding between Florida and Vanderbilt, right? This is him deciding between Florida, Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M. Like all of those teams had better years than the Florida Gators, right? Georgia and Texas made the CFP. Texas A&M had a pretty good year, beat the crap out of the Florida Gators. All those teams had pretty good years. That's who you're competing with for Hero Kanu. So that's one of those things where, like we talk about with high school recruiting as well. When you have a player that you disagree with the ranking, or even if you do agree with the ranking, if the offer list doesn't match that ranking, to me, the offer list matters more. And with Hero Kanu, we could say, hey, he's a backup, so he doesn't fit the guardrails, we'll call them. The guardrails of production or lack of experience or youth, we'll say, eligibility remaining. But teams with championship aspirations are actively recruiting him, actively trying to get him on campus, actively trying to get him on the rosters. So teams with championship aspirations have that. Does it matter what I think about him? Does it matter what you think about him? Because there's two coaches there at Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M. There's two coaches in that bunch, and you can include Florida in it. That number doesn't change then. But two coaches there that make $10 million per year, over $10 million per year. Two coaches in there that were in the CFP. Those guys still want him. I can't sit there and say anything negative about the potential addition of Hero Kanu. We are about to talk about what positions the Florida Gators could also look for in the second window, and I guess the players remaining from the first window. I guess we'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, except I can guarantee one outcome. I'm going to be disappointed. I tell you, I don't want to watch the Chiefs or the Eagles play, and that's some But hey, Kendrick Lamar concert. That's cool, at least. No better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're betting first touchdown scorer, calling the MVP, coin toss, how long the national anthem is, you can bet on everything with the Super Bowl. It gets really good. You could bet on the color of the Gatorade that they pour in the winning coach. It gets insane there. It's nuts. It's beautiful. Download the app or head to fanduel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's before the Super Bowl, by the way, so you can get that money to spend on the Super Bowl. Just saying. That's fanduel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And like I said, I've genuinely never been less interested in a Super Bowl. I need you to know that part came from my heart. I don't care about seeing the Chiefs three-peat. Definitely don't want to see the Eagles win again. I'm a Giants fan, if you don't know, so I hate them. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm there for the concert at this point. But the Florida Gators brought in Hero Kanu for a visit yesterday. Whether or not he eventually commits to Florida, I would expect a decision, maybe in the next week or two. That'd be my expectation, just based on the other schools that are interested. Probably going to take a few visits and figure it out. But that still poses the question of who else the Florida Gators could pursue. And I want to make this clear as well. We've talked about this before. We've talked about it with the insider program before, and it's come up quite a few times. The Florida Gators are, as far as roster spots go, it's slim pickings right now. Like, they're well over the limit, okay? The difference is that I think with Florida, you're going to see a lot of attrition after spring ball, okay? I think after spring ball, you're going to see the Florida Gators use spring ball essentially to evaluate players. And then after that, give them the boot if they don't like them. Because you got to get rid of, at this point, if I'm not mistaken, 16 players. You could still add another portal player here or there and then say, hey, what's the big difference between 16 and 18, right? As far as which specific players, I'm not going to get into that. I don't know what number they want at each position. I don't know how they feel about guys that we haven't seen play but only practice. So I'm not going to get into that much about it. But I will say that, yes, Florida needs to be selective because there's a really slim or not even slim. There's not much flexibility with the roster right now, right? You got to get rid of a bunch of guys, but if you add some, that adds some math to it. I don't think there's a huge difference there, but we'll see. If the Gators go out and add Hero Kanu, you can assume that they're mostly done with the first portal window, right? Mostly. There could still be a player here or there that they're interested in. All of the players at this point from the national championship that are going to enter the transfer portal have. That timer has run out, so no more there. The first portal window is done unless a grad transfer enters. Okay? Which, frankly, if a grad transfer was planning on entering, they probably would have entered already. So you can assume that they're mostly done with the first portal window. That leaves the second window coming up, or the available pool in the first window. And Florida's brought in some guys on visits, specifically on the offensive line, that have not committed somewhere yet. And I do think that part of that is, I don't want to say, I don't want to say off field and make it seem like there's negative connotations there, but maybe they wouldn't get into Florida academically, credits, whatever it may be. So I do think that some of that is playing into effect, which I don't fault Florida for at all. I'm not saying to raise a stink about that. But based on who Florida brought in for visits in the transfer portal, offensive tackle could be a spot that they look for. They brought in a few guys for visits, showed interest in even more. Maybe offensive tackle is a spot that they look for. But here's the thing that I do think is pretty tough. That's a really difficult spot to contribute to in the second window. And we've heard, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was On3 that reported this the other day. that Florida feels really good about Fletcher Westphal, which they should. Fletcher Westphal, blue chip offensive tackle from the 2024 class, just needed to add some weight, just needed to add some strength there. So should feel pretty good about Fletcher Westphal. But they're saying, hey, they feel really good about him contributing this year, which would be interesting. And they also kind of suggested that, hey, maybe that's why they weren't super active in the portal at offensive tackle. I don't want to sound like I'm calling anybody a liar because I'm not. I am going to say I think I disagree because they were showing interest in guys before workouts started, and they stopped showing interest in guys before those workouts really started. So I think that they were interested in some guys, showed some interest in those guys, brought a couple in for visits, spoke to more of them, and just decided, hey, this isn't a pool that we could add in right now. But if you got a bona fide starter quality offensive tackle to enter the transfer portal in the second window, I do think Florida might show a little bit of interest there. I do. I do think that if there's a guy where they know, hey, he's going to come in, start right away, make our offensive line better, and help us win more games, I think they'll show that interest. And I will continue to say this. First off, we talked about a lot of positions. Edge is one that I thought Florida needed to add more in, even with the addition of Kofi Asari. DB, they added Michael Caraway Jr., so they got in the portal guy there. Wide receiver, they got J. Michael Sturdivant. Quarterback, they brought in two guys, I guess, with Deshaun Purdy, who then left, and then they brought in Harrison Bailey. They brought in the punter and Tommy Doman. I think that's everybody. I think I touched all 5 bases for who they added in the portal. But it wouldn't shock me if this coaching staff went for another receiver in the second portal window. I'm not saying they need to, but I will say that Napier's found a lot of success adding receivers in the second portal window. And I just, and maybe this is a flaw on my part, but I just can't get the Jonte Cook situation out of my head. I just can't get the Jonte Cook, hey, they turned him away for off-field concerns, not because they felt like they were set at receiver. I can't get that out of my head. And again, maybe that's a flaw on my part. Maybe, because again, they added Dallas Wilson at that point. Maybe they were like, hey, we've already put in all this work. Maybe we'll still consider Jonte Cook, not necessarily anything about adding a receiver. But the fact that the reason they turned him away wasn't we're good at receiver kind of makes me say, hey, maybe if the right guy hit the portal, they'd still look at him. Which, by the way, if the right guy hits the portal at any position, except quarterback, you should look at him. We are going to talk basketball for the rest of this episode of Locked On Gators when we get back with Locked On Gators. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your team their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every possible deduction and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worrying, no woman, no cry. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we are going to switch to basketball for a little bit. I'm not going to come out here and say, hey, they need to hit more free throws like I usually do. I'm not going to come out here and say, hey, they need to play better defense like I usually do. I am going to come out here and say, hey, one of the off-field issues that has been plaguing this basketball team may have finally been answered. Also, if you don't remember, the Florida Gators are off this week. They have the midweek bye, so they're not off this week, but these weekdays, they don't have a game. They play again on Saturday. But there's been this one issue plaguing the Florida Gators basketball team, or we'll say been a cloud hanging over this Florida Gators basketball team this year. 4+ months ago, it was either early basketball season or right before the season, Title IX accusations came out toward head basketball coach Todd Golden, alleging misconduct, stalking, harassment, and that's been something that has been hanging over the basketball team. We haven't talked much about it, and we're not going to talk much about it after today, okay? Personally, I prefer to focus more on the on-field product or the roster building product, on-court product, whatever it may be, but on the actual play or on the roster building process. I don't like to harp too much on, we'll call it the extracurricular stuff, right? But I do think that this is significant to at least acknowledge, because we've gotten quite a few comments about this situation, basically every basketball video I do. And so this has been something that's been hanging over the Florida Gators basketball team throughout the season, right? Which has been successful, infuriating, taken years off my life probably, but been successful. Todd Golden, again, has been accused of, there's, again, misconduct, stalking, harassment, unwanted DMs, all that. Yesterday, Florida came out and said, hey, we finished the investigation. We found no evidence of this. That's that. He's cleared. The investigation's closed. And I know that on social media, there were people tweeting. I saw screenshots. I saw people tweeting about how this is a cover-up, how this is that. And to that, I will say this. For the rest of his basketball career, or the rest of his coaching career, there will be this cloud hanging over Todd Golden, right? And forever, there will be this cloud hanging over the Florida Gators basketball team this season, no matter what happens, okay? That's going to be a thing forever, right? Anytime someone gets accused of something like that, this is a thing that just hangs over their head forever, even if they're found not to have done any wrongdoing. In this case, again, Florida came out, said they found no wrongdoing on Todd Golden's part. But there will always be this cloud, right? Especially rival fan bases. Anytime anything happens, anytime Todd Golden does something good, you're going to get a Todd Golden comment. Anytime you bring up the success under Todd Golden, you're going to get that comment. But from my standpoint, unless there is some kind of evidence that comes out to prove anything, I will say this. I will respect the results of an investigation. I can't say, because like there's going to be the outside noise, right? There's always going to be, it's a cover-up. There's this. Well, they were winning games, so why would they get rid of him? Even if they would cover it up. If they were losing games, it'd be different. Maybe, but like, I don't know. I can't waste my life doing a hypothetical problem solving about things where they said, hey, we found nothing, it's over. I can't do that. So I will say this. I am hoping that at this point, the season can just be the season. Okay? I'm not saying there was or wasn't a cover-up. I have no idea about stuff like that. I'm going to say that I am going to hope that now we get the outside noise silenced. Because I know that it affects the players, right? When it's like, hey, is my coach going to be my coach tomorrow, depending on the outcome of this investigation? I hope this season can just be this season. Okay? That's how I look at it. It's just things happen, as in people cover things up. People accuse others of doing things that didn't happen. Like, things are always going to happen like that. That's why I try not to feed into them too much, because I don't want to feed into anything that could be someone lying. But I will say, at this point, an investigation's been done. I am hopefully not going to hear commentators for the rest of the season bring up the investigation and talk about it. I'll be able to focus on the basketball team. I will also say this. Assistant basketball coach and Florida Gators legend Taurian has also been accused. And I'm only bringing that up. Like I said, I don't comment on ongoing things really. I don't like to talk about non-sports things. All I am saying about the Taurian Green situation is that this is a different case. And so while they found Todd Golden didn't do anything wrong, or their investigation said there's no evidence of Todd Golden doing anything wrong, that does not impact Taurian Green's case. That is still under investigation. So at this point, and I'm only bringing that up because we had a couple of the insiders bring it up, and I figured that the insiders bringing it up means that the rest of the fan base probably thinks, right? It's like in school. If I ask the teacher a question, odds are someone else had that question as well. I was just the one that asked it. So I will say that this has no standing on the Taurian Green investigation going on. And that's it. That's all I got for you. It's a different case. Green's case is still undergoing that investigation. This one took 4 months almost. Probably expect a longer timetable for Taurian Green from the couple of weeks since the last allegation. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow talking more Florida Gators football. If there's any updates from the Senior Bowl involving the Florida Gators, we will cover that as well. See if we can get some Florida Gators from the Senior Bowl on the show. Usually I try to set those up for the week after, but we'll see. But for Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. And as always, I will see you all next time.